Hi everyone, my name's Anne-Marie. Welcome to FabScraps card making project number 28. Today we're going to make a gorgeous card. We're not using any dies, we're not using any stamps, we're not using anything out of the ordinary. It's going to appeal to new crafters and advanced crafters. It's a great technique for advanced crafters to keep in their arsenal for maybe scrapbooking, for making cards and adding just a little extra to something. It's a good technique for new crafters because you don't need any special tools. The only thing I will say is if you number your squares, which you'll see what I mean as you watch the video. Number your squares on the back and then it won't turn into a jigsaw puzzle like mine did. But stick with it because I get there in the end. Everything I do use I should put in a detailed list on my blog, so please be sure to check it out. You can also purchase your FabScraps collections directly. There's a page dedicated with the information on there. Price includes postage worldwide. So that's a good page to check out as well if you're interested. There's always lots more photos and lots more details on my blog, so please be sure to check that out too. Give my video the thumbs up. You can always find me on Facebook. It's lovely to hear from you. All the links are at the end of the video. Now without further ado, please sit back, relax and let's have a look at today's gorgeous FabScraps card making project. So for today's tutorial, we're using the FabScraps Wild and Free collection, C120. All the details are on my blog, so please check it out. We're going to need a base card. Now the base card that we're going to use is a 6x6" card, and to give you perspective at home on our cardometer, and this is something that I've designed myself to be able to show you perspective at home of what size of cardstock we're using. So the largest size on here is an 8x8, we go down to the 7x7, 6x6, 5x5 and the smallest being 4x4. Our card is a true 6x6 card and it's in ivory, and on the back of it I've already used my stamp handmade by, added my name so the recipient knows who's made it. I've also added the project number on this one just to keep me in line so I know what I'm doing. So the first thing that we're going to do is use our bone folder to make sure we've got a nice sharp score along the top of the card. So all I'm doing is running the bone folder along the edge and that will make the crease nice and sharp. Now this card, I don't know if I've just mentioned, I can't remember, in the little intro. This is a very, very quick card. We're not using any dies, we're not using any special tools. We're simply using some cardstock from my stash, and we're using the card from the Wild and Free collection. If you are a new card maker, this is a great one to try. If you are an advanced card maker, the technique with this card is a good one to incorporate other things with. So the inside of our card is just as simplistic as the outside. I'm going to use 2 layers, and the full layers, I haven't been economical with them. 2 layers of cardstock, and the first layer is kind of like a deep grey colour on the verge of a browny grey. It's on flat tape and it's measured 1/4 inch smaller than the actual card itself. My next layer is a layer of ivory cardstock, again 1/4 inch smaller than the previous layer, and it's on flat tape. When I say flat tape, that's double-sided tape. I know you could use your tape runner, you could use wet glue. I use double-sided tape. So I'm going to position that in the centre of our previous layer. I haven't inked the edges, I haven't done anything special at all. So that's simply 2 layers of cardstock. From our Wild and Free collection, I've taken one of the sentiments, and it's 2 elephants which are beautifully intertwined, and it says "Together Forever." Now you could add any sentiment you wanted to this. You could make it into any occasion. This, I think, is non-occasion specific. I think it's a beautiful card and it would go for so many occasions. Now, I'm going to add this in the centre. I don't need a lot of room for a long message. There is room there if I want to message. I could add it at the bottom. I could add it to the side. But on this occasion, I'm thinking I'm going in the middle. Press it down, and that is our insert complete. Nice and simple. If you wanted to use rubber stamps, you could stamp the corners. You could add some embossing into the corners as well. You could add lots of different features, but I'm thinking for this tutorial, it's nice and simple and quick, but effective. So that's our inside. Now we're going to go back to our front of the card. I'm just going to use my bone folder again to make sure I've got a nice sharp crease. And you'll notice I've got the crease to the top. So the card will be standing like a tent card rather than that way on. So our first layer for the card front is the same grey cardstock that we used for the inside. Again, this is on flat tape, and I've measured it again 1/4 of an inch smaller than the actual card itself, and that gives a nice edge around the outside. Now my next layer, I've also kept that flat actually. I'm not being economical because I need a flat surface. I don't want any wobbles with this. And I think for just a quickie, you're not going to start trying to save your cardstock. If you do, that's entirely up to you. But I'm thinking for what we're doing, the technique, we want it actually nice and flat because we won't be able to hide any dips, if that makes sense. Our next layer is a layer of black cardstock. I've got double-sided tape on the back of this, and this is roughly 1/4 of an inch smaller than the first layer. So you can see it creates a beautiful layered look. Now I've gone for black on this layer because we're drawing the eye in. If I'd gone for black on the base layer, whatever colour I put on this layer, it wouldn't draw the eye in as much. It's an optical illusion really, and it's just a designer's trick to draw the eye to the centre of the card. Now I've said we're not using any special tools, we're not using any dies or stamps or anything, because I wanted to kind of show you how to use your pattern papers in a different way but keeping the pattern. Because so many people email me and say, I've got some beautiful papers but I don't want to cut into them. I don't want to cover up the images that I've got. Now this image is the elephants from the Wild and Free collection from FabScraps. I didn't want to cut this up. This is just such a beautiful paper. And I was racking my brains, and there's something I did quite a long time ago. I thought this would work. Now I've cut the pattern paper into a 5-inch square. On the back, I know you can see all my foam pads, there's a reason for that. On the back you can see I've drawn a grid to create 9 squares. So I've divided 5 by 3, which gives 1.6 recurring, and that basically means it's 1.6 endless, it's infinite, it's 1.6666, it'll keep going. So where I've divided the squares up, they all measure just over 1.66, and they're not going to be perfect because my ruler is a normal ruler, it just goes to the nearest 1.6, 1.7. However, it'd be near enough for me. So I've drawn the grid where I've divided the squares into 1.6 by 1.6, and then I've put foam pads in the middle. You don't have to put your foam pads on yet, but I've put mine on for you know, for easiness. Now one trick that you could do, I haven't done it with this, you can number your squares. So you could write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that when you're putting everything together, if you've got a lot of squares, because if you imagine you divide that up by 1 inch, you've got 25 squares. As you're putting things on, if you're wanting to make a quick card, you want to know where those squares go. So it's only like a jigsaw puzzle, but I haven't on this occasion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut along the lines, and I'm going to cut this into 9 squares. So bear in mind I've already got the sticky pads on the back, so you won't be cutting round your sticky pads. There we go. So that's the second one into 3. Now this will work with any of your pattern papers, and it just enables you to keep the pattern without covering it up. You're doing something completely different with it, and it's, you know, just a great technique really. It's a good technique for mixed media as well. Now once you've cut out all your squares, then you have the great the great jigsaw puzzle, and you literally then want to start adding your squares together. And I've muddled all of mine up, so that's not good. I'm thinking that could be the corner, but if you don't press them down, then you can get them all to marry up again, and maybe get them all in the right place. And then let's have a look. I'm thinking that could be there and there, and now you're all at home shouting, oh, this way, that way. And that one must be that side of the elephant, like so. And maybe this one is here. And it's just fun, absolute fun when you're crafting to do something completely different. As I say, this is a technique that I used to do a long time ago, and it's just builds interest into whatever image that you've got, and matching everything up to make it just come alive and work and literally be fun. And that's what crafting should be. It should be something you enjoy doing. It should be not a chore, if that's the right word. And I think this is something different. You could get the kids doing something like this, and it just all works. Obviously it's taken us a little bit of time, only because I had the sticky pads on and I had to do it face down, so everything got a little bit muddled there for a moment. Had to catch my breath, hoping that it was all going to work out fine, and I'm glad you've stuck with me. And so now we just have to space our squares out roughly so that they all are the same. But you can see how we've still got the pattern. The black draws the eye in. I can press them down now. A little bit worried about them not being in the right place. But you can see that beautiful paper, you can see the beautiful design. Now the last thing I've got for this is a little bow for the top. If you don't add a bow, you don't have to. It's just something simple and different to use with your pattern papers. Now, apart from me taking my time to put the squares on, it does take no time at all once you're doing it and you're not having to do it in front of the camera. Please check my blog for other projects. I really like this style. I think this is just the best way of displaying pattern papers without losing the pattern and having to cover everything up. You'll notice there's no sentiment, and the only sentiment is the elephants on the inside, together forever. Wouldn't that be cool for a Valentine's Day card? Because it's not too lovey-dovey or mushy, but you know, if you've got a guy or a girl that is into elephants, I think that is just, something very different. Stands up perfectly, will go in a normal envelope, no height to it whatsoever apart from one layer and a bow, and would post well. I know from my friends across the pond, square cards are a bit different, but you would be able to cut the paper into the 7x5 size and, work your squares out and do something a bit different there. So I do hope you've enjoyed watching, and I hope it's just given you ideas. That's what it's for. I'm not here to preach or anything. I just want to give you ideas of fun things to do with your stash. Please check my blog for lots more projects and lots more photos as well. There's so many ideas on there, whether you're a beginner or advanced. You can always find me on Facebook if you look for Anne-Marie Vaux. There's so many projects on there as well. And it's just nice to know that you're with me. So I would just like to say thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you next time.